Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
January 29, 2021, the Say It Ain't So Joe edition. And we begin with that story, which is that Facebook is considering suing Apple over Apple's App Store practices. 2 people familiar with the deliberation said that the move could escalate tensions between 2 of the world's most powerful technology companies. Facebook executives discussed accusing Apple of anti-competitive actions in its App Store, said the people. The social media network planned to say in a lawsuit that Apple gave preferential treatment to its own apps, no kidding, while forcing restrictive rules on third-party apps developers like Facebook. Really? Facebook discussed the filing, the suit as recently as December. It's unclear if the company would move forward. All I can say is I cannot wait to see Facebook sue Apple. So say it ain't Joe. Next up, in an equally just bizarre situation, we turn to the Financial Times, who reports that the German financial watchdog BaFin, who has come under withering criticism for its coddling of Wirecard, filed a criminal complaint against one of its employees who used inside information to engage in insider trading of Wirecard shares. This is just the tip of the iceberg, as we now know there was an entire investment pool of BaFin employees investing in Wirecard. Well, of course, it was all inside information because the BaFin was the regulator. You just can't make this stuff up, and I hope that you are listening to the Wirecard Saga, the podcast on the Compliance Podcast Network, each week with Mikhail Ryder-Gordon of Affiliated Monitors, where we talk about the Wirecard case. But it is just beyond belief that the regulators would allow this. It was apparently well known within the organization. Next up, the Biden regulatory freeze may affect some proposed anti-money laundering rules. The regulatory freeze announced by Biden may affect the proposed rules from the Treasury Department unit focusing on combating money laundering and terrorist financing. Of course, this was a result of the just abysmal Trump administration's attempt to eviscerate rulemaking, but there's going to have to be a Biden appointee review the rules. Biden's freeze will also apply to proposed rules and regulations that have yet to take effect, with the exception of rules relating to urgent situations such as national security. We can only hope that the anti-money laundering, particularly the terrorist financing rules, follow into the national security bucket. And then finally, you think that corruption is a victimless crime. Well, it turns out it never was, and it certainly isn't now. As Dylan Tokar over at the Wall Street Journal Risk and Compliance Journal says that corruption is contributing to the public health crisis. Transparency International said that in a report. The warning came as the advocacy group released its latest editions of the TICPI, or the Corruption Perception Index, its annual survey meant to capture the perceived level of corruption within countries. Companies use this index to assess doing business in various countries and what steps they need to take in the life cycle management of third-party risk. The U.S. took another big hit in the group's rating following a trend that, of course, went on during the Trump administration. It's the lowest score since the last Republican administration. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.